Okay, yo, what's up, everyone? This is your Fantasy Papi Roi, and welcome to our FBPH weekend episode, which is our weekly head 3 head. Because, of course, three heads are always better than one. And we have our household bro chachos. We have our day to day fantasy guy, Arik. We have DMAC from NBA Fantasy Bible. And we are super excited for our episode for today. Can you feel and then can you see the energy overflowing to our body? So without further ado, let's start it off. What's up, bros? How
G'day guys, how are you?
I'm hyped. I'm ready to start. Great episode before us.
thank you, Eric. DMAC, how are you?
Doing well. Today was actually a big day in Australian sport. We had our national code, the AFL Grand Final today. 100,000 people at the game over in Melbourne. So a lot of people tuning into that. So yeah, pretty big day for a lot of people around this country. But yeah, now getting into fantasy basketball again this evening.
Yeah, I can feel DMAC carrying over the energy. Can you see it, Eric?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so guys, this is going to be a special and exciting episode. So we are going to talk about our sleepers, our breakout players, and our busts list. And we're gonna chime in a couple of deep league magic bunot, as we call it in the Philippines. But it's like something you get surprised when you kind of like pick in the bottom of your pocket. So we're gonna talk about that, and let's talk about the sleepers first. Arik, let's hear the list of your sleepers for this season.
Wait a second. Let me open my list.
Go ahead. I'm super excited with Arik's list. He's one of the gyms that I know that is very passionate. So let's hear it from Arik.
Yes. Okay. So my sleepers are first of all John Collins. Okay, Collins. Um, Collins had a horrendous year last year. He was injured in the hand, if I'm not mistaken. Right, Daniel?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, he had
Yeah.
a finger or a hand injury. Yeah.
Yes, in the finger. Okay, and his percentages dropped. Okay, but maybe people forget that John Collins was not too far ago a first-round player. Okay, he per game he from fantasy point of view is pretty much the whole package if he's healthy. His percentages are high from both the field and the free throw. He can shoot from far from three. He can rebound. He blocks a bit. He doesn't turn the ball a lot. Yeah, he doesn't passes the ball too much, but from a power forward position, you usually don't get a lot of assists. He's a new situation now in Utah. Maybe the new environment will be good to him. It depends a lot if his hand is healed, okay? But if so, he can crash his ADP. So this is the first player I have, and I really don't think he'll be worse than his ADP now. We're talking about, um, let me see, according to Basketball Monster, his ADP now is 104. Okay, I don't see him uh, bringing less value than that. Okay, I think it's a high value pick in this spot, and I would have chosen him much sooner. But I know that I can gain value now, so I'll pick him about 90. Okay, if I know that his ADP is 104.
Yeah, and then I was also thinking if they can do it with for Laurie Markkinen, why not John Collins, right? I mean, Utah Jazz is has this magical touch in the past season. So let's see if they can actually do it for John Collins.
Yeah, there aren't any guarantees, right? Maybe it wouldn't work there. Him and the four and Markkanen at the three, it may want to work, okay. But there's as I view it, there's a high chance that he will be much better this year. The
Gotcha.
second, continue to the third name.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so my second My second name is I have two surprising names. The second name is Middleton, okay? And why Middleton? Middleton lost value from the trade. I don't think that any one of us will disagree that the trade was bad for Middleton, okay? But Middleton already lost value, or should I say, he's underrated because of a very bad year last year, okay? So now with the trade, people are really cold of Middleton, and too cold, okay, in my book. He's still a player that can provide a 17, 5, and 5, okay, with high percentages, very high free throw percentage, still maybe more than a steal a game, 1.1, 1.2 steals a game. Is still a player that is worth more than his ADP. His current ADP, according to Basketball Monster, is at 84th spot. 84th. I will gladly have him even one round earlier, okay? Gladly. So this is my second name, and my third name is really surprising, and this is the kind of a long shot, a hot take, because of the situation with the Jazz backcourt. I'm talking about Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn last year played great. The last 22 games of the season, he played at a really high level. The backcourt of the Jazz contains of players that doesn't share the ball too much, okay? Or they have problem with their defense, okay? I don't believe that Sexton and the Filipino legend both together can, Papi laughs. I mean, of course, Clarkson, I don't believe that they can coexist in a winning team as a starting backcourt, okay? It doesn't make sense to me. They're both shoot first mentality, and I really prefer Clarkson from the two, okay? So I don't believe Sexton is a starter. He is a perfect for the sixth man role, okay? And when I look at the other options, you can have the Tyler Horton Tucker, and I don't trust him as well as someone to direct the offense. He had a bunch of assists last year, but he turned over the ball almost 4 times. And he's really not effective player that has a lot more to learn about the way he sees the game. And the last player is Keontae George. Great talent, okay? But he's too young. I don't think that he's ready for such a role in a team that wants to win. And I believe that the Jazz this year wants to win. So I may be off here, okay? I may be off here, but I'm talking about picking Chris Dunn in the last round, okay, or the 12th round, okay? You're not losing everything from picking him, and the upside is real here, because if the slim chance that he will be the starter will happen, you're gaining here a player that can have a top 70 value. So those are my 3 names.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's really hard to get a guard or a player that provides assist like late in the rounds. That's super hard to do. And if that pans out for Chris Dunn, he's going to be someone that will be picked all over the leagues for sure. So yeah, great
and
list.
another point that I talked about, but not enough. The backcourt defense of the Jazz last year was horrendous. Okay, guards feasted when they played against the Jazz. Okay, they need some defensive presence. And excuse me, Clarkson doesn't bring it. Sexton, oh my God, he doesn't know the word. Okay, there's no D in Sexton. So they need someone there, okay, to shut down other guards. Okay, that's all. I finished.
Yeah, sure, sure. I love the there's no D in Sexton, but the dude does haka, right?
I've got
So
another line, but it's a bit dirty. I
yeah.
think this is a PG rated show.
I think we're thinking of the same thing, D-Mac.
Yeah.
Great list, great list. So let's hear it from you, Daniel.
Yeah, all right. We'll start with one that's pretty commonly known. That's Ben Simmons. I think there's been a lot of hype around him. Brooklyn is saying that he's healthy. He's saying that he's healthy. So he's hoping he could get back to all-star level. And I don't think after the injuries that he's had and a lot of the controversy that he's had in recent years, in the last couple of years, I don't think he'll get up to that level. But for a late round flyer, I think you'd do worse than getting Ben Simmons, particularly when you're looking at those categorical, scarce statistics such as your assists and your steals late in the draft. So I think Ben Simmons is a good one. I think if he can start at point guard, he's a must roster guy. We know what he can do. He has been a former top 40, top 30 fantasy talent. So I think he won't get to that level again, but I think for a late round flyer, why not pick him up? He could play 26, 27 minutes at point guard. Flexibility and versatility is something that will be questionable, particularly if he and Claxton share the court at the same time with the lack of three-point shooting. But I still think that with his defensive nous, I think he'll be a very valuable player for the Nets. So why not pick him up in the late round? Any thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah,
100% agree.
yeah.
The upside is crazy. You can't miss on a player like this. It's like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Even if and I think the chances that he will be valuable are pretty high. Not, as you said, not as valuable as he was before. Okay, but he only needs to play 28, 29 minutes, even not 29, 26, 27 minutes to be valuable. He brings you rebounds from out of position. He brings you assists. He brings you steals. For a guard, nice blocks. High percentages from the field goals, of course, not the free throw. He's totally worth it.
Yeah.
And just remember, he's renowned for being a bad free throw shooter, but that's on low volume. So he's not going to damage you tremendously unless the opposition adopts the hack a Ben tactic. But we only see that in the playoffs. So we did see that a couple of years ago. But yeah, I think Ben Simmons is a great pick as one of the later round draft picks. Yeah, my next one is Robert Williams. So former darling, he's a per minute monster, as we know. Yes, the Boston Celtics have brought in Kristaps Porzingis, so that will probably take over from Robert Williams starting. So there's word that it'll be Kristaps alongside of Al Horford. But if Robert Williams can still rack up the, let's say, 23 minutes per game, and he's done that, he did that a couple of seasons ago, and he was still a top 100 player. So his current ADP, what's his current ADP? Looking around the 100 mark. So Yahoo and Fantrax, around the 95, 100 mark. So if you can pick him up, he could provide you top 75 value in those limited minutes. We've talked about the plethora of rebounding and blocking guys at the end of drafts. So these big guys that you can pick up. So if you do miss out on some of the higher upside young guys like Duren, Mark Williams, even Okongwu as well. So Arik's man Okongwu, Robert Williams is a great get. So I think he'll provide that value. And Kristaps Porzingis is also, he's had some shoddy health years as well. So there's no reason why Robert Williams couldn't get more minutes if KP does go down or if there's any intention of resting him. Thoughts, guys?
Yeah. For me, as far as the past couple of leagues that I've drafted, he actually falls down up to 120 plus. To be honest,
yeah.
For some reason, people that after being hyped for a couple of years, now people doesn't like him. I think there's value there. I think it's one very good example to define what a sleeper is. So totally agree with Time Lord.
And just bear in mind that last season. Oh, go on, Arik.
I have to add something. People have short memory, okay? A player can be great and then have one bad year and people will forget the past, okay? He's, like you said, Daniel, he's a per game monster, okay? He can be crazy good. And the backcourt, the front court of Boston is really, really, really injury prone. Not only him, the two others as well. Horford maybe not that injury prone, but he's old. He's not going to play back to backs. Okay, and Porzingis is, he's going to miss games. Okay, so to have the Time Lord at this point, it's like Middleton, one bad year, and there you go. The rank is going down too much.
Let's not forget, even with such a supposedly bad year last year, he was with traditional 9-cat rankings still the 75th player. So that's really
Yes.
good in 23 minutes. So that's probably his baseline. That is his floor. So yes, KP's there, but I still think he will have a good year.
And to be honest, the silver lining with KP in the team and having Horford still in the team, keeps away the pressure from Time Lord to play harder, to play longer minutes. So it's like, yeah, fine, he plays like around 25-ish minutes, but he plays more games. I'll take that.
Mm. Absolutely. Don't forget, Al Horford tends to sit out those back-to-backs. So you can see KP and Robert Williams sharing the court. So particularly with KP's floor spacing ability, why not? I think it's a good combination.
For sure, for sure.
And my last one, similar to how Arik went with Chris Dunn. So it's a real late round flyer, but this guy's getting a little bit more hype in the last week. Derek Lively. So Mavs rookie. Jason Kidd's recently come out and said that they're going to start him in the preseason. The center position's up for grabs. And yeah, we were thinking most likely Dwight Powell to resume and possibly even Rashawn Holmes, a previous fantasy darling. But Derek Lively could be a great fit. He's been doing a lot of work with Doncic. So with the pick and roll game, that's going to suit Derek Lively to a T. He's a rim to rim runner. He's a great rim protector, and when he is being a little bit offensive, he will finish. So, 60 plus field goal percentage, which is quite valuable when you're looking at some of the later round options. If you don't get those guys that we talked about earlier, then Derek Lively is a really good option for really good solid blocks and decent rebounds and great field goal percentage.
Yeah. And it's the fact that he is being mentioned already as a starter for me is one good reason for you to really take a look at Derek Lively at the end of your drafts. Plus, we're talking about a younger fit that can keep up with the Luka and Kyrie doing their usual pick and roll. We all know Dwight Powell is low key a good pick and roll player, because of his ability to really shoot from the outside. But of course, it's a long 82 game. I'm pretty sure Derek Lively will get his during this season.
Yeah, if we find out that he's got the starting spot, he's a lock. You have to draft him. And even if he's in the rotation, I think even for that upside where he'll ramp up his minutes later in the season, I think he's worthy of that late round flyer.
Exactly, exactly. And just to lastly add on that, the games were in Luka shots poorly. Guess who's gonna get the offensive rebound? So I guess he's gonna get some of those for sure. Okay, so thanks, DMAC. Let me start off with my sleepers here. Let me follow through with some young players, and I think this one I might not count him as a sleeper anymore because people has been reaching him for early rounds. So I'm talking about basketball Paul Reed. So in the past seasons, because I love watching D League or G League. I usually in some of my tweets or some of my shows, especially when I have this portion in my episodes that I call Magic Bunot, or someone you pick like randomly on a day when someone a player sits specifically Embiid or during that time, I guess Tobias Harris or whoever is in the front court of the 76ers. I usually call out Paul Reed. And now it's not only a day, it's not only a couple of days. It's going to be possibly a season being in the rotation of the Philadelphia 76ers. It's a different coach. Um, PG Tucker is a year older. We don't know if James Harden will be there. We don't know if James Harden brings PG Tucker out of the Philadelphia 76er. So I guess at around 147, as I see his Yahoo ranking, I think he's going to be a value as a sleeper. But again, like what I mentioned earlier, people are reaching Paul Reed, and that actually kind of like undoes the sleeper that we tag Paul Reed. So if you reach out for Paul Reed, that's not actually a sleeper anymore. He's not going to be a sleeper. You're actually getting him possibly on a value that we actually kind of like projected, and the projections isn't guaranteed. We might be wrong. People might be wrong. What if he plays just like I don't know 15 minutes, and then who's their backup? I think someone from Orlando, right? The who was that? Another big in the Philadelphia 76ers that they recently signed. Uh whatever whoever it is, what if that guy starts
Bamba, Mo
over him?
Bamba.
Yeah, there you go, Mo Bamba. What if Mo Bamba starts? So there's a lot of things here, but again, we're talking about the last couple of rounds here. So for me is actually a sleeper. What do you think,
If
guys?
if if you get him in the last couple of rounds, of course, he's a huge sleeper. Nurse already talked about that he plans to play him like Siakam. You know, things crazy, crazy things have been said. He's really pumped, and what's funny about it, and I'm not talking specifically about him, uh, uh, but in general, you know, the sleepers you have in August become the busts of of September, of the end of September, because everybody already know about them, okay? And the people you say they are busts in August, everybody getting so cold on them that by now they're becoming sleepers. But Paul Reed is a monstrous upside. Okay, and Daniel, you after what you said about him last episode, I'm pretty hot on him now. I'm pretty hot on him. You convinced me.
Yeah, he does have that upside, but to Papi's point, let's not reach too high because, yeah, one of the essential
Exactly.
parts of fantasy is getting value with your picks. Drafting is not the be all and end all, but if you can get value, then you're going to put yourself ahead of the competition. Conversely, if you reach too high for a Paul Reed in the 80s or the 70s,
Yes.
you set yourself up for failure.
There you go. Yeah, and then my next pick. This is a biased pick because I love the San Antonio Spurs. Um, let's talk about Keldon Johnson for a moment. I think at 156 ranking in Yahoo, even though I'm a Spurs fan, I know in fantasy he doesn't provide a lot. He provides points. He's not that efficient. Actually, just points. At least last year he's shooting threes, right? So it helps. And then if you really want, he was actually providing more than 25 points almost per game last year. Uh, so now with Wembanyama in town, I personally think the decrease in usage is gonna help him. The new role as a six man is gonna help him. He's going to be more efficient. He's gonna have another player that uh, uh, vacuums the defense. A good reason why he's shooting bad last year because everyone's guarding him. Who would you guard in the San Antonio Spurs? Devin Vassell was out for several weeks last year. It's going to we always call Den Johnson. So now that defense is gone. So as we call him the Mustang with big body, I'm feeling he's gonna be providing us good efficiency this year with good points. Possibly not efficient in free throw. He wasn't really known for that, but who knows? But at 156 in this area, if you kind of like lost, you forgot about drafting points. You want to pump some points in the last couple of rounds in the draft. I think it's a good value here. Other options there, as I remember, are I don't know, Eric Gordon, Caris LeVert, which for me, I think Keldon Johnson is like a more upside, I guess, for the three. Maybe Caris LeVert is a different upside, but he's more inefficient compared to Keldon Johnson. So I think points last couple of rounds, I think Keldon Johnson is a sleeper. What do you think, guys?
Look, we're usually on the same page, but not around Keldon Johnson, unfortunately. I think his upside is actually quite low. And yes, points can be hard to get at the end of the draft, but I'd rather go for someone and take that flyer who can potentially get you a sneaky top 50, perhaps. So I don't think Keldon's anywhere close to getting that type of value. I think Jeremy Sohan's ahead of him, even in terms of you think of dynasty value, defensive nous as well. I think he's a much better player. So I do fear for Keldon Johnson. And look, he had an okay season last year, but he practically had the keys to the town. He could do anything he wanted on that team, but he still didn't provide us with fantastic, tremendous fantasy value. So I'm not so sure on that one, but I've been proven wrong by yourself, Papi, in the past. So happy to be proven wrong again.
I'll tell you what, Papi. He in the season before 21-22, he was ranked 106th. Okay, so he was inside the top 120. Okay, and I totally agree with you that less usage and less responsibility helps here. But I don't think that his ceiling is much higher here than top 100. Okay, so if you have a really good value team and you need someone that will give you the points without a high upside, I'm getting a 120 player, top 120, max top 110, but I need now the points. So you can pick him, you can take him, okay? But I'm pretty sure there are higher upside picks at the draft, okay? So I'm not sure. It really depends. If you have a ton of value and you need someone safer, maybe it's the pick for you. But again,
Yeah, I love the disagreement.
From an upside point of view, there's no much upside there.
To be honest,
and Arik, that's a good point. If you've gone a little bit riskier in some of the earlier rounds, maybe someone who was solid, who will get you that baseline value in terms of points, could be the way to go in the final round. But typically, and we've spoken about this in previous episodes, those last couple of rounds, those players you tend to stream through anyway. So it's unlikely that you retain those guys, but you just never know.
Yeah, and then again, I totally agree with you. I started my statement with kind of like loving Keldon but dropping his ability to provide good stats. I just think we have to choose players that NBA analysts or fantasy analysts don't talk about usually. So I guess this is a good talking point, and I love it. I love the discussion. Last player on me. Let's talk about Prison Mike. Prison Miles rather. Prison Miles Bridges. I have to put him here. I initially cleared him, but I guess I have to put him here just because we've been talking about offline earlier, and then I was thinking of, hey, who among all of the players here could have like a big jump if everything pans out, despite, well, this is just within basketball. So Miles Bridges comes to my mind at he's being ranked at area almost 100 now, 98. I think he's gonna crash this ranking, and I think he's almost gonna have like I think minimum top 75 end of the season. I'm seeing Miles Bridges here. When I look, usually aside from the stats, I kind of like look at the path of how would he achieve that value. So when I look back before, when even though Lamelo is already their rising star, I noticed that Charlotte really loves him as their primary guy. I think he got the keys before the whole fiasco happened, and I think he's gonna get it back. The only hesitation that I have here is how would the league respond to Miles Bridges? Will they file them immediately? Because I'm seeing comments like, "Hey, first time Miles Bridges gets the ball, someone's gonna foul him hard for sure." So let's see if that happens. But fantasy wise, I think it's a good sleeper.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree. I think you even convinced me to retain him in my keeper league ahead of Markel Fultz, and that's not finalised yet. But I think you're right. He does have that upside. We've seen him in the past, 2 seasons ago, as early as 2 seasons ago. He was that top 40 guy, and he had that wonderful synergy with LaMelo Ball. So the gang's back together this season. They've got a nice anchor behind them with Mark Williams as well. I think there's a little bit of competition. PJ Washington established himself last season as the power forward. He's come back this season. So we'll see if Miles Bridges starts. They've also got Brandon Miller as well to fit into that forward rotation. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But I like him with his upside play.
Yeah. I love the agreement. I think Arik agrees as well with Miles Bridges. I think we've talked about it in the past, right?
Yeah, we already talked about him last episode. I totally agree. I just want to remind that it's not locked. Okay, is the player. There's some risk there. Okay, so we need to remember that it's a player that didn't play it for a year. In his position now, there are other players, new players, okay, that can take minutes from him, and we're not sure how he can mentally get back to playing with all what happened, okay, with the crowd booing him, and with a lot of fuss around him, and of course, I won't be surprised, if women movements will be, with signs outside the stadiums or things like that, because all of what he did. So I don't know how mentally he'll be back. And again, he didn't play for a year. The upside is crazy. Of course, we need to pick him. We need to take him. Okay, and if he'll be good, he can be third round value good. Okay, so the risk, he's worth the risk, but he's not locked. Okay, he can have a really bad year as well and lose his job as a primary player in Charlotte.
Yeah, and then on
They
top of
might
that,
not view him as they viewed before. Okay, but again, I totally agree that he's someone you have to pick at his ADP for sure.
yeah, and then on top of that, he actually just started a feud with Austin Rivers. So let's see what's gonna happen in this first game. It's been wild in the internet. Okay, so we're done with our sleepers. Let's now talk about bust. Let's reverse the order. I'm gonna start first with the bust. This is going to be interesting. I think people might raise their eyebrows, but I'm gonna call Scoot Henderson as a bust in over 100 ranking. I love Scoot, to be honest. I just think people are actually reaching for him right now. And then that's gonna really push Scoot as a bust in terms of value. I'm really afraid that people are too hyped just because of the trade and all. I understand his his upside in dynasty, definitely a hard number two after Wembenyama, but in redrafts and especially now that people are reaching Scoot, it's going to be hard. You know why I kind of like really what's the reason I got pushed to put Scoot here, guys. Um Recently I drafted in our one of our leagues, and he was actually drafted at round 4 or 5. And in mock drafts, he's been he's been reached for several times. And then in what I don't know if it was Josh Lloyd or Dan Besblees in their mock drafts, Scoot was reached as well. So it's beginning to be a trend. And I don't know. For me, as much as I love Scoot, uh, he might be a bust. What do you think, guys?
I'm with you 100%. Okay, I really think that this kind of players like Scoot are the reason that I like punting assists. Okay, uh, because of his ability to pass the ball, and he should be points. It should have nice points and everything. So people are going to pick him prematurely. Okay, and I can't see him be a fifth round player is crazy. Okay, he's not going to be efficient. Okay, probably. Okay, there aren't guarantees about nothing. Okay, but most of the chances that he won't be worth the pick, and he's got a lot of hype around him.
Yeah, I think with the Dame trade as well, people have hyped him up as being the main beneficiary, which is true to a certain extent. But we've seen in the past rookie guards tend to struggle, particularly with when you're looking at traditional 9-cat rankings. We've seen it with Jar, we saw it with Cade as well in their rookie season. So I don't see any difference with Scoot, but people will reach for him just for the fun factor as well. And you see in fan tracks, and they tend to be a little bit more compared to Yahoo, a little bit more refined with their picking. He's actually going higher. He's closer to the 85 range rather than the 100 range, which is interesting. I would have thought maybe it would have been the other way around.
Yeah, and then maybe we're wrong. Who knows? Maybe Scott is, the
Slim
legendary rookie.
chances, slim chances.
But again, yeah, very
Usually
slim
rookies
chances.
that doesn't tend to be efficient. If you know, it's history. It's not
Especially guard
like
rookies, right?
assumption.
Especially guard rookies, right? So
Yes, yes, yes.
okay. Next, this is going to be like quick, guys. Clean Capella. I don't know. This is in line with Arik's favorite guy this year. It's been a while. It's been a couple of seasons that we're waiting for Onyeka Okongwu to really get the passes. I just think this is going to be this year.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's trending that way. And even at the end of last season, Okongwu wasn't necessarily getting more minutes, but he was playing a lot better. So I think the Hawks will understand that. They'll lean into the youth moving a little bit, and probably Capella may have some trade value still out in the market. So yeah, I have a feeling that Capella won't be on the Hawks team for too much longer. And I wouldn't be surprised if Okongwu takes that and runs with it. Having said that, if Capella does get moved to a team that doesn't have a quality center, perhaps it's the other way. Perhaps he does gain some value. But again, there's a lot to play out from that sense. So as things currently stand, I'm with you. I wouldn't be drafting him anywhere near his ADP, which I think is roughly 75 in that range.
Yeah, around that 70, 75.
Okay. Yeah, that's too high for me.
I have to say that if they trade him, he can be gold. Okay, he can be back to his old numbers. It's a big if. Okay, he can become a sub for Onyeka and not be worth a lot. So I'm with you guys. I'm not picking him in his ADP, but he can have value this year.
Yeah. My last player, I don't know, maybe I just don't like his upside. I'm talking about Patrick Williams at 120. You know why? Because if he is being picked in this area, I think it's fine, to be honest. But similar to Scoot, several leagues that I had, Patrick Williams is being picked earlier than this ranking. So I love the improvement in terms of the defensive stats. But Chicago Bulls usage is distributed into 3 big usage guys. So I'm thinking, how would Patrick Williams up his game if that's the case? If he can't really maintain his ability to shoot and be consistent in defense, I'm not really seeing a path of him having a big jump or at least a medium jump this year. So if you're really reaching for Patrick Williams, I think there are several names. Like for example, we've talked about Paul Reed, we've talked about Tari Eason in the past. I just think those players are better in terms of the need that you're expecting from Patrick Williams, which is someone that is like a Swiss Army knife that could give you steals and blocks. But I don't know about you guys.
The beautiful thing about fantasy, okay, and about this conversation, that it's all is depends on where the player is picked. Okay, you can have the same player. We can think about the player exactly the same things, but you view him as something, as one thing, and I view him as something else, because in your leagues he's picked prematurely, and in my leagues he's picked really late. Okay, I took Patrick Williams in an auction draft for $1, okay? So I wouldn't have taken him for more than that, okay? But for $1, he has some upside to be a top 100, top 90. Maybe we'll have breakout, a slim chance, okay? I won't pick him in snake draft before 120. I'm totally aboard with you, okay? But, you know, if you see him getting picked at around 90, he's a total bust candidate. But if you see him picked at around 130, 140, you know, it can be a steal, you know. So it really depends where he's picked. That's all.
Yeah, a couple of points for me. When we're looking for value, we tend to look for changes of situation. And to what Roy was saying, there's no change in situation. You've got the top three guys with Vooch, Levine, and DeMar DeRozan. They're still there. So nothing's dramatically changed to allow for Patrick Williams to improve his offensive game. And I think the idea of Patrick Williams is actually more impressive than the actual Patrick Williams himself. I think he's had so much investment into him, yet we haven't seen the full version of what he potentially could be. For whatever reason, he hasn't broken through yet. So that's why last season we tended to see him come on and off of waiver wires. He wasn't someone that was consistently on a roster in our leagues or my leagues anyway. So I tend not to even need to draft him because I just think that he doesn't have that upside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to remind you that he's only 22 years old. He got picked. He got picked in the draft. He was the youngest of his class. So things can still change. If he was 24, 25, I would 100% agreed with you, Dimek. But I think the situation is a bit different with young players because even when things are still in the team and now no one moves, but they can have bigger role only because they got a bigger, stronger, faster, smarter, because they're getting better because they're getting older.
Okay. So talking about DMAC, so let me hear your list, DMAC.
Yeah, we'll start pretty high. It's Pascal Siakam. Yahoo rank at the moment of 27. So for me, so ADP just under 30. But let's not forget, last year he was ranked 44th in traditional 9-cat rankings. But he was also playing 37 minutes per game. Really high usage at 27% as well. Yes, Freddie VanVleet has been shipped away. So, he may have an uptick in usage. However, I just don't see him playing more than 37 minutes where he can actually improve on his numbers, but also his efficiency has let him down as well. Look, his rebounds will probably also reduce next to Jakob Poeltl. So Jakob Poeltl's come back into the fold as well. So that's another area that he could be hit. And also when you look at his statistics, he's only a positive in 3 categories. That's points, rebounds, which could also be hit, and also assists. When you're reaching for someone who's in the top 30, you want to be able to have more than just 3 positive categories out of 9. That's my take. What about you guys?
Yeah, and for me, I agree with you. Something that I could add there is just the cloud in Toronto. So there's also a chance that someone gets moved. I don't think, to be honest, if you ask me, the possibly it's just Scotty Barnes to say, based on the things that I've read. Pascal Siakam could get back if given that he's very vocal that he wanted to play at the as a Toronto Raptor like for life. But yeah, that alone, and then the weirdness on what they did and Masai did as a whole in the organization, getting back Jakob Poeltl, but then not doing something to sign in Fred VanVleet and all. It's just, for me, it's just a lot of cloud. So totally agree with you. If there's a better option, maybe Carl Anthony Towns slide. I'd have Carl Anthony Towns over Pascal Siakam.
I'd agree. My next one's Paolo Banchero. This is an easy one. He's ranked 65th in Yahoo with an ADP of 60, but we saw last year he really struggled with his shooting percentages. And unless he's been really working hard in the gym in the off-season, I can't really see that changing to the point where he is going to be providing that 60 type of value. So he's already got a high usage. He is, as we've talked about previously, himself and Franz are the top two dogs in Orlando. It's not going to change, but I also don't think on such high volume free throws, he's actually going to be more detrimental to your team unless you are punting free throws. But also with the 43% from the field, taking a hit in both of those is quite risky and doesn't help a lot of build. So being ranked 65th is far too rich for my liking. What do you think?
I'm still mad at you that you took him before me as a bust.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's an easy run.
Nothing to add. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look, in a points league, absolutely you take him in this range.
Yeah,
And
of
maybe
course.
some of that ADP's because of points mocks and real drafts. But for a category league, there's no way that you can take him in the top 60.
Actually, even in punt free throw, because if you're punting free throws, I would assume, say, for example, you have Yanis or you have Luka. In the turn, you can get someone like the Aaron Fox that also gives you points, right? So it kind of like doesn't make sense to me to go hard for Banquero that doesn't give you peripherals, right? If you're punting free throws. So totally agree with you.
Yeah, and they give you rebounds that if you're punting free throws, it's the category that you least need because everybody, when you're punting free throws, give you rebounds.
Yeah.
It's
And
the easiest category to get.
Rudy Gobert is just beside him in the ranking. So I'd rather have Rudy Gobert, right?
Oh, 100%, 100%. And also it's likely that Franz Wagner gets more usage as he improves as well. So he only had a usage rate of 23% last season. So I could see that bumping up and potentially that hits Paolo Banchero's usage. But yeah, I just don't see the improvement coming out of him. So for my third one, a little bit lower down the ranking, but Buddy Hield. So last season, he had a great season. He was 49th in traditional 9K rankings. He's currently ranked 90th in Yahoo, but his ADP is 77.5. So we've heard in the last week or so, they're looking at trading him or potentially bringing him off the bench. And that only equates to less usage, less points, less threes, which is a lot of his value. That's where a lot of his value comes from. Benedict Mathurin is coming into his second season, so I think the Pacers are going to prefer to have Mathurin run with the younger guys rather than Buddy Hield. And even if Hield does get traded, I don't know if he's getting traded to a better situation. So to be ranked 90th, but also with an ADP of 77, again, that's going to be too rich for my liking.
Yeah. I also think the steals last season might be a fluke, but I might be wrong.
Well, that was a career high, 1.2 steals. That's career high. He had one season at 1.1, but typically he's just under that 1 mark. So yeah, you're right.
I can guarantee you that if he doesn't start, his steals rate will go down. The only reason he had this steal rate because he tried to play defense because he was happy, he was content with his role. Okay, there are a lot of players that you can see when they aren't content of their role, the defensive stats drop. Okay, that's why I think, for example, that Ayton will regress to his blocking numbers, maybe not completely, but to his blocking numbers 2 years ago, okay? Because he is going to be now in a team that he likes, in a situation that he likes.
And
yeah, I agree.
It's now guaranteed by Arik, so what can we say?
Yeah.
Money back guarantee, Arik.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess is it Arik's turn?
It's my turn. I always miss it. Okay, my first pick. Okay, should we talk about him? Onyeka, of course, is sorry, we're on the bus. Sorry,
You scared me, Arik. You scared me.
Okay. I got confused. It happens a lot. Okay, it happens to me a lot. It happens to me a lot. Okay, so my first pick is going to be Zion Williamson. Okay, I thought about it a lot. But if to include him or not, I still see a lot of people picking him even pretty high. Even he's a crazy in crazy injury risk. Okay, my sign interrupted. Sorry. I really don't think he's someone you should pick at his ADP. Okay, Zion has a ADP of 65. Okay, we're talking about players that played less than 30 games per game per season since he came to the league. If he'll play, he'll be good, maybe great. The chances are really slim that he'll play. Okay, so I'm not taking the chance, such a crazy chance at 65. Okay, you want to pick him at 90? Go ahead. I'm not sure that I'll pick him at 90 as well. Okay, but at 65, it seems way too high to take that risk.
Let's have some fun. How many games will Zion play next season? D-Man.
If we look at averages, look, I'm similar to Arik. I don't think I would take the chance, but all right, let's go 50. We'll go for, is that career best, 50?
I'm going on. No, he had one season with 60. Okay, but
Right.
you can imagine how low was the other years if he's got less than 30 average.
I was about to pick. I was about to pick 50. So let me be the optimistic one and say 60.
Oh,
Okay, I'm saying 35.
There you go. I love it. The reason I pointed out to you, Arik, because I was thinking of doing 20 to be honest, but I thought that I'm pretty sure Arik is going to be based on Zion. So let me be the optimistic one to choose 60.
Okay,
Well,
Roy.
again,
So if he plays, so if he plays 60 games, are you picking him at pick 65 then?
Nope.
You probably would. You wouldn't. If you knew that he was going to play 60 games, I'd absolutely pick him at 65.
Of course, but you know, I might be wrong here, but this is something that I'm sure about, that is not supposed to be picked at 65. Okay, even if you get in poker, you enter with 2-7 of suit, you can win against a pair of aces. Okay, but it doesn't mean that it's the right choice. Okay, sometimes in fantasy we're making the right choice, and we're losing, or making the wrong choice and we're winning. But I'm absolutely sure that picking Zion at the 65th spot is wrong due to his history. And there's nothing that makes me think that this year is going to be different.
But the videos and clips,
Yeah,
it gives people hope.
like the videos of Ben Simmons every year shooting threes in preseason.
Yeah.
Not to mention the gym workout.
Yeah,
Exactly.
everybody looks slim and in shape in the preseason, and they're getting to the season and they're fat and out of shape.
All right. So that's my problem. I've never done a preseason.
Can I move to my second name?
Yeah, go ahead, Arik.
The second name is Brook Lopez. I think the last year was an outlier. I think that his block numbers, the block rate will go down. We're talking about, and I'm not even saying this because of the trade. The trade didn't change my point of view of him. I think that this year, Giannis will be back to his blocking numbers, and Lopez, that is already will be 36-year-old, he'll play less minutes. Okay, last year he played 30 minutes. It's the most he played in the last 4 seasons. Okay, I don't see him playing that much this year. Okay, so even if he will have the same block rate and the numbers, only the minutes will drop his stats. But I believe that the per 36 minutes will go down as well. The last 2 seasons, he had 1.9 and 1.8 blocks per 36 minutes. The last season, he had 2.9. And centers, the block rate is going down as you get old. Okay, a lot of, you can see it with a lot of centers like DeAndre Jordan or even
Serge
Gobert.
Ibaka.
Yeah, exactly. That there were premium blockers and it went down. So this year it was really strange year with his block rate. I truly believe that the block rate would go down, and this is in his main value. Okay, so he'll have less minutes, less usage now, particularly when with Lillard there, less minutes, less usage, and less blocks. So I think that the 61st pick, where is ADP now, is way too high for him.
Yeah, totally
Yeah, I
agree.
agree with that.
If
Okay, and
if there's quickly, if there's anything I could add, if people are really hoping for Brook Lopez to replicate last season, kindly remember that Chris Middleton wasn't playing a lot last season. That really gave paths for Brook Lopez to get a lot of usage. So yeah, just want to point that one out.
And I guess
yeah,
another point that
and
I've got then is you've got a worse defender in Dame compared to Drew Holiday. So is there a chance that, like, Dame tries hard, but he's not a Drew Holiday on perimeter defense. So is there a chance that guys blow past him and then there's Brook Lopez to grab those blocks? It's just something else to think about. I still tend to agree with Arik, but maybe the decline isn't going to be as bad as we think.
can I move to the last name?
Of course, you can.
The last name is a postseason horror show, and I'm talking about Julius Randle. Okay, the man and the legend. Look, I watched the Knicks last year, and his improvement compared to the year before was that he makes difficult shots that he didn't make the year before. Why didn't make it? Because they were difficult shots. The same shot is taken in the playoffs and misses. Okay, he didn't change his style of play. He's still too wild of a player, and his decision making is still mediocre at a good day. Okay, I think, and you can see he's got 1 year that his percentage is high, and then the other year low, and again high, in comparison to him, and the next year low again. He is he doesn't make wise decisions. I don't have any idea why the coach still lets him play, okay, this style of play, because we see that in the playoff it doesn't work. And there's a really high chance that he'll regress, that the percentages numbers will regress. Okay, so I'm not taking him where he was last year, and I'm even not taking him at his current ADP. That is crazy. It's 55. Okay, he's ranked at me below 100. Is in my projections, he's not a top 100 player. So I understand that most people won't agree with me here, but please agree with me and don't pick him at the 55th spot. Way too early.
Yeah, I think people won't agree with you, including me, if it's points league, because I think there's
No, I'm not talking
a
about
bigger
point
value.
league.
Yeah,
Point league.
it's a different value, but I just want to add something on that because I kind of like agree with you, Arik. He also just came out of an injury, so it's also something that I think this is gonna be healthy, but you know, um, Tibbs is someone who who gives his players a lot of minutes. So it's going to be the same thing this season. I just want to tell people that if he fits your bill, fine. You do you do you, and you take the risk. But what Arik is saying here is ideally, I just think that there's a lot of negative stats versus the positive stats.
Yeah, in some pants you can have him close to 55, but again, he needs to be really perfect for your build, and still I think he's going to disappoint. Okay, even with this. The year before, last year, he had 41% from field goal percentage. And I think we're going to see something similar to that. Maybe not 41, but if he's going to shoot so many threes like this year, I don't believe that the percentages will be this good when he's taking those kinds of shots.
Okay. So let's do a rapid fire to end the show. So last year it was SGA's big debut. People has been, uh no, I think people knows he's good, but because of how OKC handles their players, because of the injuries, people really pave away from SGA. But apparently, after couple of seasons where people hated him, now almost all people loved him. We kind of catch him last season, right, Daniel? We had like a similar episode like this, and we kind of like catch SGA. Now, as a rapid fire, let's talk about your breakout players that you think might be has a similar path as SGA did last season. Now, I'm not saying that these players that we'll be discussing, guys, are going to be first round player like now or next year. It's more of like really having a breakout season to jump to a next level. So let's start it with you, Arik. Rapid fire players that you think will
Okay.
break out this season.
The first one is Okongo. We talked about him enough. Okay. Capella and all the situation. I don't think I need to add any more because we talked about it in this episode, last episode. Okay. If he's a starter, he's got a third round value upside and even maybe higher. Okay. The second one is Evan Mobley. I truly believe in this player. I think that this year, as a third-year player, he'll get more offensive responsibilities, especially after the horrendous playoffs that they had, that everybody could have seen that they need to play more inside, okay, and not only guards play, okay. And the third one is a hot take, Michael Porter Jr., okay. He had 2 years ago, okay, before he got injured, the year before, he was ranked 27th per game. I think this year, without Bruce Brown and another year that is healthy and more confident in his body, that he's going to have a really higher, really better year than the expectations. I won't be surprised if he'll be a top 50, top 45 player.
Okay. Nice list, nice list. This is something that we'll be taking note of, guys. So at the end of the year, start of next season, we'll flash all of our lists. So it's going to be exciting. DMAC, let me hear your list.
Yeah, it's no surprise. It's Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Maxey, Jordan Poole. I've spoken about them endlessly. They may not necessarily beat their value in terms of ADP at the moment. They're definitely breakout candidates and most improved player award candidates as well. Just all three of those guys are going to take that step up compared to last season. But if we were to go for someone who's going to take that dramatic leap and possibly even get into the first round, I think maybe even Papi, you might talk about this. I think Wemby has the best chance of doing that, but I'll let you speak about your man.
Yeah. So me, actually, DMAC dropped my boy, of course, Wembanyama, purely proud San Antonio Spur. I know the hesitation. I know the possibilities that he might not play every game. The deficiency in terms of sorry, the inefficiency is that of a rookie. But upside wise, I think he has the biggest upside. So I'm gonna go Wemby there. Another Spur, surprisingly, Devin Vassell. I don't know. I just love Devin Vassell. I think he's a Swiss Army guy that I think is gonna crush his ADP. I think he's gonna definitely gonna break out. And last one, a player that people were torn for 2 seasons now. I'm gonna go with Alperen Sengun, baby Jokic. I'm gonna go with the optimistic side. I think he's gonna crush it. I think if you have Jokic and then you had a chance to draft Alfred Sengun, I would do that. It's going to be amazing. You'll definitely love your fantasy team. Okay, so I guess that's it. Anything you want to add, Arik, DMAC?
That was a really fun episode.
Yeah, great episode, guys. Of course, you can catch us on Twitter, NBA Fantasy Bible. Hit me up.
Yeah, of course. Day-to-day fantasy
Yeah,
in
and of course,
Twitter.
speaking of day-to-day fantasy, check out Arik's app. He's been updating it almost routinely. So check out the day-to-day fantasy, also available at Apple store
Yes.
and also available in Google store. So you'll
Yeah,
definitely check
day-to-day
it out.
fantasy NBA.
There you
You
go.
can
And
find
me,
it. It's free, and here you go. A lot of viewers of our podcast, a lot of listeners got in the app.
there you
So
go. Yeah,
yeah.
so we'll definitely support you, Arik. Pinoys out there, followers of FBPH, check it out because there's a lot of references. There's a lot of sites. To be honest, we love all of them. We
Yes.
don't compete with them. They're family to us. But for me, I just love checking out the contents, the takes of someone like DMAC and NBA Fantasy Bible and Arik because personally, I see their passion. I know they put effort in everything that they're sharing to us. So for me, that's valuable. I'm not saying that
Ah,
not everyone has passion, but you know,
we didn't
I'm
share the
biased.
news.
We're
Abu,
bro
we didn't
champions,
share the
sir.
news. Me and Dimek in the same league.
Yes. Oh, by the way, yeah. Quickly tell everyone about that.
We're playing in the World Cup, okay, of FBI, and we're in the same division. And Dimek, if things won't change, Dimek picks first. So congrats for Jokic, and I'm
I'll
picking
take Kate
fourth.
Cunningham at number 1.
And
Jordan
I'm
Poole.
picking
Pick
fourth.
Jordan Poole.
And I love this pick too, and it's going to be a nice battle. I guess we'll talk about it a lot here in the show.
For sure. So the
Sounds
moment
good.
that starts every week, we'll have a portion for you to talk about it. Anything else, DMAC?
All good, Papi. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you so much, everyone. Again, we are the Three Bro Chachos, Head3Head in the house. Have a happy weekend. Bye.
See you guys.
Cheers.